Hi, Chelsea. How are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
I'm good, good. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Oh, I'm so excited, and I get a quiet house and I get to have a conversation with you and potentially everyone that views in. So very happy to be here.
Awesome. So let's get started. I'm super keen. I was super keen prepping for this conversation, given that you have an amazing background, not only in marketing right now, but also working at a startup, which is Hyperon. I don't know if I should call Hyperon a startup anymore. You guys are growing pretty fast. We can talk a little
Well,
bit
we're still a
more about that.
startup. We're still a
Yeah,
startup.
there you go.
Very early in our journey. Our journey is going to hopefully be very long. So yeah.
Amazing. So I guess the best way to start the conversation is I'll give you some time to introduce yourself. And you can talk a little bit more about your role at Hyperana and what you're working on right now.
Okay, perfect. So in the Zoom little thing, my name is Dr. Chelsea Wise. I'm currently the marketing director at Hyperana, a startup in data and analytics, but some people bucket us into fintech. What do you want to know? I've been working within corporate and research environments for over 20 years. And had you asked me 20 years ago when I started studying university stuff, economics, marketing, econometrics, that 20 years later I would be in a startup, I would have said, no way, Jose.
Yeah.
If you had said that I'd be in a marketing role, I would have again said, no way, Jose. I loved studying marketing, specifically thinking about what people do, how people shop and make decisions. But the numbers really within economics and econometrics really spoke to me. So yes, that's the road. I've definitely taken the road less traveled. So I've been at Hyperana now. This is my 4th year. We've been around for only 5 years, and as I said, like very early beginnings, I'd like to
Still.
say. Yeah, we're no longer in a garage. But I mean, we're solving different problems every single day. Just in terms of a snapshot of what we do, we make data and analytics accessible for everyone. So whether you're a butcher, a baker, a candlestick maker, it doesn't matter if you're trained in data and understanding that. We want to make data and insights accessible for everyone. Within large organizations, you hear of the power of data science, and they have the capability to hire teams. But whether you're a small business or whether you're a business that doesn't have that capability, Hyperana is trying to solve that with software that can be your super powered data analyst.
I love it.
Yeah.
Such an important thing to do right now, given how important it is to democratize data and put it in everyone's hand. We all know how powerful it can be once you have access to that, and it empowers you to make decisions. So a pretty noble cause. I love it.
Exactly. And I mean, when I was within university environments studying, and then I became a lecturer for 3 years, and I was an academic for a very long time, and I was teaching statistics, even motivated postgraduates or undergraduate students that studied business. Like they wanted to excel in everything but stats or business statistics. They're the criteria. The MVP was just, how do I pass this course?
Yeah.
So even if you've got a college degree, most people are pretty afraid by numbers.
It's a thing.
We'd like to think it's a pretty noble cause.
Awesome. Well, welcome again, and thanks for joining us. The conversation that I'm really keen to have with you today, I think we're going to cover a lot of things. We're going to cover things like how it was to shift into a remote environment during COVID, being in a startup environment. We're going to also talk a little bit about culture and how I know the culture of a startup is commonly known as an amazing place, because you're trying to build a new team and you're trying to bring talent on board. So I'm really curious also to know how the company is now moving that into a remote environment or hybrid environment. How you guys are keeping up with that, and also you are a newish mom. I know Heidi is 18 months now.
18 months, yeah.
18 months. So I guess for the benefit of everyone who's listening and watching, is like what was it like your journey of a new mom in a pandemic world, and then going back to the office and having to go through all that journey. So those are kind of the things that we're gonna talk, plus marketing, which is in your and
Day job.
mine, day jobs, also have a little bit conversation around marketing and how things shifted during COVID. So let's go back into the fully remote transition. I guess it's February, March in Sydney. What happens at Hyperana, and how did you guys shift to a remote environment?
So just to give you context too, before even Corona, I came back to work full time on, call it the 1st of Jan, like the first week. So I took last year off. I was a new mum, doing that, enjoying that. But the plan was always to come back to work full time in Jan. And so I did that. But coming back, I came into a completely new role. So I used to look after data science and customer engagement, client engagement. And the company, the CEO had a problem of wanting to solve, like we'd never really thought about marketing before as a capability for the organization. It was prior to that product, and customers. But I mean, it sounds a little bit naive to say growth was an afterthought, but it was, just focus on product and just focus on the customers that we have. We weren't really thinking about the sales and the marketing capability of the organization. So putting my Hyperana hat on, putting my power suit on my like Hyperana swag t-shirt in Jan, I came back refreshed, energized to go. Of course, baby was still not sleeping through the night. But the problem for Hyperana was, okay, what is this thing called marketing? And how do we, Corona wasn't even a thought. What problem do we need to solve? And the good thing was, in thinking about the plan on the page in Jan, trying to understand where the business had shifted, because a lot had changed in a year, or the time that I'd been away. The team had changed, evolved. Our customers had grown. So even though I had a lot of intimate knowledge of my year's pre-maternity leave, I was coming in to solve a completely new problem with a completely new title and a different toolkit. So the good thing, and there's nothing good that's really come of Corona, but when we started to get signals in Feb that things weren't right. And the reason why, like myself, there's 2 of us in marketing, and we work very closely with the co-founder and CEO, Natalie. The 3 of us were brainstorming in Jan a lot of conference and events that we would be attending and speaking at, and organizing and had paid deposits for a lot of events that we were curating and hosting, and everything was face to face.
Oh God.
So there was an accounting expo that was at the International Conference Centre in Darling Harbour in Sydney. And then there were small intimate lunches for CFOs that I was hosting, and I had confirmed speakers and 20 people. So that was all a plan on a page in Jan, deposits and speaking confirmed in Feb. And the first event was going to be around that mid-March. So when we started to see signals in Feb that globally things were shifting, and then we were just thinking quite seriously about our deposits, and we were thinking seriously, like, do I personally, selfishly feel good speaking at an event at the end of Jan or in April, given that other events are being cancelled around the world? I'd like to think we didn't spend a day naively wasting our time. There was always a plan. Let's make a decision here. This is going to be our point. This is going to be our fallback option. This is how we'll recover these deposits and whatnot. So yeah, that's kind of the pivot for us in terms of or for me selfishly, was day by day. And then once we had made the decision, the company collectively had made the decision to go home, like everyone had. We were in very safe hands. As you know, we are residents of Stone and Chalk in Wynyard, or our Sydney office is, our Singapore office is, and they're in Singapore. But their circuit breaker activities were happening in Singapore. We, working in Stone and Chalk in a government building, they had already had a plan for staff to move remotely. So our transition was pretty seamless. I mean, the composition of our company is largely data engineers, software engineers, and people like myself. Like literally, we've got our computers, we've got all the tools. It was just grab a monitor and go.
And go home. Yeah, and I guess being in the tech space, it was no kind of a new thing. The concept of working from home, right? It's something that in the tech industry is or in the data space is kind of it was normal for many,
Yeah.
even before
Yeah.
COVID. And how was the support from? Sorry, please go on.
Oh yeah, but what was not normal for us, and I had lived it a few years prior, the very first few times that I helped the company with onboard our first Singaporean clients and to build a small team there.
Yep.
That was a real hand first experience of, I'm not going to call it us versus them, but what it felt like to work in a satellite office. Like literally, because you're the only person and you're the only person in a hotel room in Singapore dialing into all hands. And it does, when you actually feel that us versus them, and when you yourself believe in culture so much, and then all of a sudden it's shaky lines, or the company hasn't yet invested into like a really good microphone and, you know, a really good
it's the simple things, right?
Or a way of working. Like if they've dropped out, my default before would have been like, who cares? Not, I mean, it sounds, but then when you're there, you're just like, no, don't forget me.
Yeah.
Part like trying to make sure that there was very little lost in communication, and that the Singaporean team or anyone working remotely before Corona was not disadvantaged was always high on our to-do list.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then I guess on top of that, like one of the things that I hear is how the simple things that we get for granted are so important, right? And then once you're the one living through that scenario, it's like, now I'm feeling the pain. I can kind of easily relate to whoever was working remotely on a previous life.
Exactly,
how was the support from the business? Like, what did you get? Easy access to communication tools? Was it all set up from the beginning? What was the hardest bit, I guess?
I mean, for me, it felt like it was all set up from the beginning. There were a few must-haves for marketing and sales, client engagement in general. So like we only had X number of, say, Zoom licenses. So it was a no-brainer to like uptick a few more of those things and make sure that we were like agnostic to platform. Because I think the biggest disruption was like our customer engagement team that I used to be a part of, not because they were ill prepared, but because they're working with largely enterprise customers. And, you know, it was like around that April time where, whether it was a government client, like they were trying to solve the problem of like, we don't have enough laptops for our staff. Like, and some of the fortunate companies that we partner with, they had little allowances for like office chairs and whatnot, but then there was a chair shortage and a monitor shortage. And so I think the client engagement team at Hyperana really went above and beyond to just show a lot of empathy for their clients.
That's
to
amazing.
Pivot, like to make sure that whether they had planned training sessions or onboarding or like coaching sessions, all of that still happened, but then knowing when to back off and just to let everyone kind of breathe.
And find their feet.
Totally.
That's I think that actually is a really good segue to my next question, which is that shows a lot about the people at Hyperana. And the question is, can you describe how the culture is, like how you say the business is 5-year-olds, and if you can maybe summarize how the founders have put culture in the center of everything that they do, and how we're seeing that, or you saw that as in March when things went bananas. How was that reflected, and how is culture so important for Hyperana?
I think if I reflect on like the last 5 years, we've attempted a number of PowerPoint decks, Google slide decks that, you know, say different things or say same, but different. But like, this is not even a canned thought. I haven't got a pre-prepared note on this. But what I just told you about how the whole company kind of gave the biggest applause to the client engagement team, who, and they're not just supporting us like customers in Australia and Singapore, but some of our customers, although the use case or the contract may have been signed in one of those countries, they're supporting a team in Canada, for instance.
Yep.
And so they're kind of working strange hours, supporting them and doing whatever it takes. And the fact that, like, to help with the burden of that, whether it's a support question or whatnot, a lot of our engineers put up their hand to go, what can we do to help?
Amazing.
You know, does it involve like bug fixing this? Does it involve accelerating this? Or does this mean we should back off this and reprioritizing? So putting the customers first, I know that sounds really cliche. That's probably in everyone's mission statement, but it doesn't matter what you say, it's what you do. And so hearing those stories, talking about it, celebrating them at the end of the week together, and just really cheering for the client engagement team, I think, is a huge thing. Selfishly, everyone's got their problems to solve: marketing, sales, product, whatever. And I'll always have a side, like not always, but because I played a big role in starting that team a number of years ago, like the customer, like there's no better truth than just hearing what's going on and supporting them. So I would say definitely, like, customers, and just they're a real people. They're not personas. They're real people.
Yeah, of course.
They come with their baggage.
They're
homeschooling or they're not. But like, definitely putting the customers first, celebrating them. I think Corona has definitely accelerated product's ability, or just confidence to have, whether it's supporting and having more of a direct line to customers, whether it's having more conversations in product interviews when they're designing new things, or whether they're bug fixing things. But definitely customers are a big part of our culture, and thinking about them as real people.
I love that. And like you say, it sounds such an obvious thing. It's kind of a cliche, but not everyone walks the talk. So hearing those like examples of how you guys are actually walking the talk, it's amazing. So kudos.
I mean,
kudos for
one
that.
of the biggest thing, because I remember writing one of the first culture decks with Hyperana, and I've got a lot of like skeptical academic friends that are just like, what's culture anyway? It's just, they'll go, what's culture? And, you know, so many, like, all of these different PowerPoint slides. At the end of the day, I'm pretty black and white. It's, to me, culture defined is behaviors. It's not what you say, it's what you do, but it's specifically what you do in hard times.
I love it. I love that. It's such a beautiful way to simplify the whole concept. And I don't know if simplify is the right word there, excuse my ESL, but just to put it beautifully, it's how we act in difficult times, and you see a lot of the true natures of humans coming afloat. So I absolutely love that.
Like, if you're a young one on the call, or if you're listening to this, if you're preparing for a job interview, fingers crossed you get the job interview and you have that chance. It's like 9 times out of 10 you get that question, so tell me about your culture. And I always tackle it from a perspective of like, do you mean like the free merch, the free meals, you know, like, you're asking for like all the benefits? Because like, I can give you all of that, but like, if you're going to make your decision just on those things, like, that's probably not a good thing, because particularly if you're joining me in a startup space, it's bloody hard work. It's a lot of hard work. And when companies go through their ups and downs, it doesn't matter if you have a nice office and a nice chair and free merch and ping pong tables. Like, if you treat each other, or if decisions are made that don't align with your values or beliefs,
you'll feel the pain.
Then you feel the pain, and that's the real culture. The real culture will, and it does trickle from top down. So I could go on that topic a long time, so I'll stop there.
Love it. Well, no, let's continue, but let's move into now what's happening today, right? So building that amazing, like, obviously what I hear from you is that I guess the bet on investing in that type of culture paid off when things got really hard during COVID, and the true nature of everyone came up, and people started raising their hands to support in areas that maybe they didn't think they would have to. So that's amazing. What's happening today? Like, how is Hyperana trying to sustain that culture and continue to build on that now that everyone's working either remote or maybe in a hybrid environment?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I was not a fan of wanting to, like, of course I wanted to work at home to be safe, but the last 20 years, and even in my school days, I didn't like to ever work at home. You know, I'm that person that would go to the library, like home is for home, switch off, work is for work, or your school was for the library, you know, and just, I loved that black and white. So I think I was the second last to want to leave the office. And I feel like I was the second last to want to leave home, because I changed that much in 3 months. The pivot to, you know, it was like, I don't want to do this. And now and then I really enjoyed it. But hindsight's a beautiful thing, because although it seemed long, and again, I pay respect, we're in Sydney. We're in Australia. We have a pretty fortunate situation, and New South Wales compared to other states, we have a pretty fortunate situation. So in hindsight, we were only at home at Hyperana exclusively for 3 months, exclude March, but like April, May, June. And in July, we made a decision to go back hybrid, and to just experiment with the idea that working from home is really still like, it's really helping a lot of people. A lot of stuff is still happening, and a lot of people are still enjoying it. However, there are a lot of people that also wanted to come to the office. And some people that wanted to work exclusively from the office. So from the 1st of July, if you wanted to work full-time in the office, you could. But the norm was Monday, Tuesday at home, and Wednesday, Thursday, Friday in the office. And that's working like I look forward to hump day. Today's Tuesday. I look really forward to going into the office and getting dressed up and seeing my colleagues. Did it impact marketing, like my team's output? Not directly, because Alice and I, who I work with, and Nat, like we all know each other. We work really, really well together. So selfishly, there's kind of no need. But like, put yourself in the perspective of our product and our sales team that are growing. There's a lot of new starters. There's a lot of interviews that are happening, and product is changing here, there, different ways. And so a lot of that collaboration, a lot of the need to be together, to have those high touch conversations, is really important. So we wanted to, conditional on it being safe to come in, and that you feel good, and that the bias was, or the preference was not, if you feel a bit sick, you know, you're a bad person for calling in or working from home, but like the expectation is you stay away, and we'll celebrate that you stay away.
Of course, being responsible.
Yeah. Whereas before, years before that, it wouldn't have been the case. It was, you know, almost wearing this tough coat of armor to think, we're a startup. We have to be together. We have to make this work. We've never done this before. And so that shift in maturity, that shift in empathy for people, and that celebration of like, stay away and you do you, and we'll trust you. Again, it's still early days for all organizations. It's early days for us, but so far the hybrid model's working really well.
Awesome. And what are the things that you're doing to keep people that are like chose to stay working remotely, say X number of days or fully remotely? How are you bringing them in to make them feel part of the team? What are some of the things that you guys do?
I think so. When, like, let's call it the 1st of April, when it was exclusively remote, our operations team were, I mean, really tasked with, it sounds really cliche or a bit silly. It's not cliche, just a bit silly, but like tasked with like, come up with ideas that are a bit of forced fun. You know?
Yeah.
And we realized that some of those forced fun things, not so good, but some were like, okay, dress up at all hands, like wear your favorite hoodie, talk about Carol Baskin and wear leopard if you're into Tiger King, or
love it.
Like little things that didn't work for us was someone was curating a Spotify playlist and people could listen to the same kind of music. We'd heard that idea, it sounded cool in the paper, it really did, on paper it sounded good, but for us it didn't translate. No one really cared about joining that Spotify playlist. So I think it's a sum of the little things and the intention behind it. I mean, we're a relatively small company. So even at all hands, we just, sounds silly, but like our all hands, when they were remote, completely remote, everyone had to say something.
Wow. Okay.
like
Given the
everyone
nature
had
of a
to,
small team.
yes,
Yeah.
like it was forced, like, how was your week, but it also was an opportunity because, again, when you're a software company, largely introverts, largely technical people,
Yep.
not so best on camera or public speaking, it was a bit of forced fun. Like, I find that fun. For them, it's like bloody awkward.
Terrifying.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
But over time, week on week, after the 12 weeks, you did see, like, I'm sure there were some haters of it, but you never saw them more connected because it wasn't just the forced fun. You saw the online chat. And if you were someone that's a little bit brave like me to poke fun of people in a PC kind of way with the live chat, because some people are
Yeah.
really quick and quirky, but it just never translates on the screen. But with the text and the video,
yeah.
so a little things of the forced fun. If you did something amazing, you got sent an Uber Eats delivery.
Awesome.
There was one moment where, I'm tooting my own horn, but I did something pretty well, and I got a buzz on the door, and I thought, oh, my postman sounds like a little bit feminine today. And it was our CEO. It was Nat outside, delivering something small to say thank you.
Oh, that's amazing. That is so good.
I think really it's the sum of the little things
with
a bit of forced fun that have helped translate.
Yeah.
And some of those things have continued. Now that we're half.
Nice. Well, I'm pretty sure things will go a little bit back to normal as you get people back into the office. But there's always people that I don't know what HyperAna is planning to do, but there's always people that will prefer and find it more convenient to stay at home or just come into the office a couple of days a week. Is HyperAna thinking about leaving that option open?
Definitely. Right now it's what is just the right thing to do for people. And then what is the right thing to do for our company, but not taking ourselves so serious, because what we need to do for the company is just what is right for everyone that's in it.
Love it. Yeah.
And all of our customers too. What impact does that have on them? A good thing that's come out of this, because we're a small company that has a preference for doing things online because that's quick and convenient and can touch a lot of people. I think that's Corona and the change has shifted the client's ability to be open to online onboarding, online coaching. And that's definitely helped that team, or the client engagement team, to not have to pray to go, oh, become digital. And a lot of companies have gone, oh, okay, well, we have to shift. So I don't want to bark on too much about that story.
No, I absolutely, and I think a lot of companies are riding that wave of innovation and digital kind of just booming due to the pandemic. It's kind of a must have. When last year it was a nice thing to have, and many companies were still trying to find the best way to go fully digital and embrace digital in many ways. I would love to move now the conversation to a more personal kind of area, which is you being a mom and how going remote and going back to work has affected you, like mentally. How are you feeling? A lot of people are burned out because they cannot delineate between work and commuting and turning off the laptops early and putting them back off late. So what's your take on mental health? How are people feeling at work?
Oh, I mean, it's such a important topic, but a big topic too. So I'm not going to do it justice to talk about mental health in general, let alone generalize about people at HyperAna. So I can only kind of talk about my own experience. And again, like a pretty good experience, considering that my daughter is small. We took her out of daycare. We just didn't feel, I didn't feel comfortable with, I thought for me personally, if it's not safe for me to go to work and I'm not encouraged to go physically to an office, I just didn't feel that was the right thing to do, to just ship her off. But I had a choice. I have family here that were able to help out, and a very supportive husband that could help out also. So the juggle was tough in the first few weeks as we were trying to work out can we all work under the same roof? Can we actually look after her, before then just going like, again, fortunate mum, like, dad, can you help out? Had we not had that support, then I would have looked at my childcare in a completely different way. And of course,
Yeah.
she would have been there. I think the hardest thing for me, and knowing my past, so when I was in academia and then I moved into professional services, I can do work really well. That's not an arrogant statement. I don't mean it in a way like that. My quality is really well.
Yep.
But I have a lot of discipline. I enjoy like difficult problems or new problems, and I can sit down and I can, like, it sounds strange, but like, I don't need to procrastinate. I can really focus.
Yep.
And I enjoy that, and I get myself into a flow. But all of a sudden, like, I'll be sitting there almost with a few toilet breaks and food breaks, but like 8 hours. And I'll do that for days on end. And of course, my day starts with picking up my daughter from her bedroom and feeding her. And it ends with picking her up from now daycare and whatnot. But I had to be very cognizant of not burning out, because I knew what that feeling felt like. But, you know, working in the office all hours and giving up my physical health or like social networks or the joys in life. It's very easy for me to fall into a trap too, because I'm working with my husband. When I was in academia, I worked in a different department as my husband, and we had different research and teaching remits. But again, like, our relationship can be quite intense because we talk about work-related topics or research-related topics. So our brains are like little hamster wheels, always going. So burning out or the potential for burnout is a really big thing for me, but I have to be cognizant of it. And
Any
definitely felt
particular ways to that, you know, you can stop from going into that possibility of burning out? Like, what do you normally do? Do you exercise, meditate, anything in particular?
Yeah. I mean, like, again, it's one thing when you're not going through it and you're like, oh, she's just saying all the same things. But like, it is for me really textbook. I have to do sports, and I don't have the discipline to do it. Like, just go for a run. Like, I paid to go to a boot camp type thing. When that shifted to eat at home, like, I make sure, like, pretty much every morning, every second morning, that I'm physical. I make sure that I'm cooking from scratch. And again, I'm not like this she's got it all woman, but like, my values are really around physical health and diet, making sure that I'm eating well. If I can't eat well, then at least I'm going to order in as good as I can. But again, I have a very supportive partner that plays a huge role. I think in most of lockdown, he did all of the cooking. I do all of the cooking for our daughter. And he just prepared all of the meals. I prepare all of like her life, making sure we don't really, during the peak of the stress, we didn't talk about work. And we started watching, because I knew that I needed something to just get my mind off work. I know that if I start dreaming about work, that's a slippery slope. That is like my body starting to scream stress. So again, it sounds like really cliche, but we couldn't even find something that we wanted to watch as a couple together, because this was too important. Like, whether it was work or just like looking at some digital content or getting inspiration for more digital stuff, and that's still work, even if I find it pleasurable. Like, finding little things that we could do as a couple to like not be so intense was really important. So we polished off, and we've just finished Suits as a series again. I'm 10 years too late. And we also did a bit of a exercise eating challenge together too as a couple.
Amazing.
Just to have the boundaries on work, to look after this.
It's so awesome, Chelsea. I guess one of the things that I take out of that, well, I take many things, but if I could take one thing, it's how if you have a partner, how you can rely on that person to help you out and find strength in him or her, to whoever's watching this, and you can do it together. Like you can keep each other honest, and it's if you're feeling burnout, or if you're feeling that there's too much pressure because you're working from home and you're pretty much covered by kids and pets, and there is no start or end of the day, just reach
No,
out
yeah.
to the someone close to you, and there's always someone that will be willing to help you go to an eating challenge together, or go work out together, or something like that. And it's so awesome to hear that your husband is that person to you. That's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, and like he comes with his own baggage and he's his own person, but um, he's working often international hours and has early starts or late finishes, and so like it's not that he was just cruising along and life was good. Like just even thinking how we were as a couple, and how we were as professionals. I think, you know, you asked me the question about speaking about being a new mother. I think the transition for him and having, because I've never, like the word mum guilt has just never really come into my mind.
Yep.
I'm quite fortunate. I just haven't experienced that. But he's definitely experienced father guilt, and he'd probably say there's no one's wrote a blog article about father guilt. That's sexist. But definitely, you know, feeling like he would like to be somewhere, he'd like to be more mentally present to do this, and he's extremely hands-on. But we all
Amazing.
come with our own our worries and troubles,
Yeah.
and trying to get through them as individuals, as fathers, as mothers, as professionals, as people going up for promotion, as people insecure, like working in an industry that's going through a lot of uncertainty. Like
Yeah.
our jobs couldn't be more different. And so trying to still like coexist on bad days, not like strangle each other, and at the same time, you know, in a different week, trying to really thrive as a couple. I've
Yeah.
definitely we've both definitely put a lot of effort into sparking a bit of joy and still
Love it.
having fun during the intensity of everything.
Love it. If there is one key message out of our conversation today for anyone listening, is I would love to it to be this one, and it's like the numbers around depression and mental health going are really bad because of or worse than ever because of the pandemic. So just reach out to someone. Like I'm just gonna close a little chapter there, and your example is beautiful, Chelsea. I would like anyone to take that as an inspiration, and it doesn't have to be a husband or a wife. It could be just someone. Just shout out. You don't have to go through that on your own.
No way.
So thanks for that, and thanks for sharing some of your personal life with that. That's amazing that you have that support. We're running close to the end, and I would love to maybe just to close the conversation today, talk about a little bit about marketing, because that's the plus that we told at the beginning that we're gonna talk. How has marketing changed since, I know you started a new role as you joined back from maternity leave, but how do you feel marketing is obviously very new at Hyperana? How did COVID change your plans, and how you reacted? What is working, what is not working?
Yeah. So marketing was like, it was just a thought when I came. The problem that I was solving, like one of the I wouldn't say the product changed in direction last year, but they partnered with Xero, and we still partner with Xero. But when you looked at our website, the Xero team at Hyperana had just spent way more time last year thinking about product messaging than the rest of Hyperana. So I remember coming in and Jen going, it looks like our product is just Hyperana and Xero, which is great and something to sing about, but it doesn't really say anything about, you know, this is data for everyone, you know, or we analyze data for everyone. So I knew that coming in, I'd have to solve a product messaging problem. And I feel like it doesn't matter what company, you're always like, what is your message and who are you trying to say that to? And that problem hasn't gone away. Like, it didn't matter whether it was Corona or not. That problem didn't go away. But definitely in terms of we thought we were going to focus a lot on physical face-to-face events. That went out the window straight away. We very quickly pivoted we were inspired by a number of our investors that run amazing virtual events. and with like the top CEOs or leaders of global organizations. And they are like, it's just like me and you talking, and you could learn
Yep.
from them. So like April and May, Natalie and I we were just so inspired by being
Yeah.
on these calls. And being an ex-academic and being married to an academic, my husband was invited to, again, so many great virtual events. And I think it was our alumni, UTS, invited us to an event with a Nobel laureate. So I'm like, what the fudge? Like, all of a sudden there's this opportunity to connect with
Yeah.
people that we would never have had the courage or the opportunity to like just sit and listen and learn from and be inspired. So from a marketing perspective, we wanted to do something for our customers, our current customers. We wanted to give them love. We didn't want to force product messaging down their throat with like a new release. So we did pivot to curate and host a number of virtual events just for like the uptick in a bit of customer retention. So we wanted to do that. That was like the goal there. But like writing the playbook for that was pretty easy, because and now we're in a time like, this is November. I think people are pretty a virtual event out, like zoomed out. But in April, May, not many people knew how to do them well. And because we had the opportunity to just speak to our investors and go, how did you do this? What platform did you do? Da, 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 da. Okay, watch a few. This is how professional services do it. This is why they sound so boring. You know, this is what, and we wanted to create exactly what you're doing, this intimacy. So my mantra for running virtual events was no PowerPoint slides. It's like a meetup. Like it feels intimate. And if you're running it and hosting it, you do it well. So, and again, like supported by Stone and Chalk and supported by some of our investors, we got some free PR and media training with some journalists of how to ask best questions and whatnot. And we just wrote our own little playbook of running events. So that definitely helped with those sticky times for our customers that were like, yeah, we still care about you. We care about the importance of data, but we're just so uninspired.
But I love to see, like, I can fully see the agility of a startup like Hyperana, just like shifting things fast, learning quick, taking feedback,
it's
and
fun.
Just deploying. Awesome. Yeah.
Like, to me, had you asked me if Corona hadn't happened, and like some people have said that you, the marketing director, weren't you in data science before and like client engagement? You? And I'm like, yes, me.
Of course,
you have to care about our clients. I know the industry. You execute like professional services, like you had the budget of professional services, but you do it fast. And you know, I remember thinking like, I have no better training than when we used to know each other through UTS, and I used to teach 1,000 per year, maybe 500 at a time, but undergraduate students that really sometimes just did not want to be there. But I had to give them all of that love. And then working in professional services, you really got to make the effort. So little things now, like for us as a brand, as a new company or a growing company, it's really making sure that polish is there, making sure you've got a nice background, wearing a little bit of lipstick, making an effort. And, you know, you're human, but no mistakes, you know, really deliver well, because you're representing a company and growing a brand. So
being on Zoom doesn't give you, like, doesn't mean that you can just like show up and let things just happen as
you
they
fail quicker.
Exactly. And you should definitely prepare.
So definitely, like, just to answer your question, so we did pivot to virtual events, which I think in the end, like, we got a way better return, and it forced us to think of our goals more clearly than just vaguely going in and attending some conferences or speaking at some conferences. So I think that was a positive thing. And again, we were working, and we're still working on product messaging. And that, again, didn't really go away. In creating content, I think, and written content has really worked in our strength, because I actually like writing and typing and doing all of that stuff, and doing that remotely, I think, has really helped. So, like, just solving different problems.
Awesome. Chelsea, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for sharing everything that you've done at Hyperana, how things went bananas, and the business really quickly adapt. Thank you for sharing some of your personal or moments of your personal life, and how this has that helped you stay sane during the last couple of months. And also, like from our community, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. We really appreciate that.
No, I appreciate the opportunity and looking forward to seeing more from Remote Social.
Thank you. We'll stay in touch, and I'll see you later.
Bye, ciao.
We hope you enjoyed that conversation. If there's any particular topic you would like to hear about, reach out to us via our social media channels.